In 1535, the chilling silence of Münster, Germany, was pierced by the screams of a woman suspended from the church tower. An iron hook had been driven through her collarbone, and for 8 grueling days her cries echoed through the streets. By the 5th day, her voice had dwindled to a faint whisper. By the 8th, life finally left her. But the horror didn't end there. This was no rogue act of cruelty. The executioner's hook wasn't a tool of chaos. It was a meticulously regulated instrument, legally sanctioned across 7 European nations for over 6 centuries. Recorded in official law books, wielded only by licensed executioners, every single deployment was logged, signed, and archived. What you're about to witness goes far beyond Hollywood depictions. I'll expose 3 methods of the hook that turned bodies into living lessons of obedience. You'll learn why executioners nicknamed it the Whisperer, and why even a queen, horrified by one single demonstration, banned it immediately within her realm. But history didn't end there. The last known victim, executed in 1866, ignited an international outcry that rewrote execution laws within 48 hours. And in 2019, 3 of these hooks vanished from a German museum, never to be recovered. Investigators have wild theories about where they might have ended up. To truly understand, we must go back to 1276 in Nuremberg. Imagine standing among hundreds, anticipating a public execution. The woman on the platform is about to face the first documented use of the executioner's hook. Until now, torture had been battlefield chaos, unpredictable, brutal, unscientific. But courts of 13th century Europe redefined it. They brought suffering into the legal system. They codified pain. The hook was intermediate punishment, too severe for a mere whipping, but not yet a sentence to death. Its purpose, maximum agony, while keeping the victim alive. And make no mistake, this was sophisticated. 4 iron prongs, each perfectly curved, designed by licensed professionals trained in anatomy, precision, and the art of torment. Every use required documentation, crime, sentence, duration, and result meticulously filed. The system was systematic, terrifyingly organized, and accepted as completely normal. 3 types of hooks existed: the throat hook, the rib hook, and the suspension hook. Each followed strict legal protocols. Hollywood got it all wrong, especially the throat hook. When fully understood, you'll see why victims could barely whisper after hours of suspension. Picture yourself as the condemned, convicted of theft. The crowd has paid to watch. You see the executioner approach with 4 3-inch curved prongs, positioning beneath your jaw. He pulls, flesh gives way. The chain is attached. Slowly, agonizingly, you rise. Each breath is a conscious effort. Saliva pools, blood seeps, and yet your mind remains painfully aware. This is the Whisperer, Franz Schmidt, Nuremberg executioner from 1573 to 1617, recorded 361 executions, 345 involving hooks. His diaries detail shallow, medium, and deep insertions and a horrifying innovation, heating the hooks red-hot to cauterize blood, prolonging suffering. Entertainment was meticulously orchestrated. Vendors sold programs, children attended free, and families brought daughters to witness lessons in morality. By the end of suspension, victims' vocal cords were damaged beyond repair. Some whispered for nearly an hour before death, their final words often reflecting the cruelty of the system itself. But the throat hook was just the beginning. The rib hook and suspension hook surpassed it in brutality, including a single execution so horrific that one powerful queen banned it outright. And yet, Europe continued its use for decades, even centuries. Vendors moved through the throngs of spectators, hawking printed hook programs, detailing the day's punishments, the names of the condemned, and their crimes. Children under 12 attended for free, a grim part of their moral education. Parents brought their daughters along, a chilling lesson in the fate of women who dared steal bread or speak against the church. This is how the executioners earned the moniker, the Whisperer. hours suspended from jaw hooks left victims' vocal cords crushed and compressed. They could speak only in hushed, strangled whispers. Guards leaned close, straining to catch final confessions or the last words for waiting family members below. Franz Schmidt recorded one woman whispering for 47 consecutive minutes before her death. Her final words, "It teaches nothing," yet the throat hook was not the most horrifying. What comes next was so brutal that a queen, witnessing it firsthand, banned the practice in her own kingdom. The rest of Europe, however, continued using it for another 91 years. Stay with me, because what follows involves over 400 women and a queen's personal diary entry, Bamberg, Germany. Witch trials rage across the city. Anna Hansen stands accused of cursing her neighbor's crops through witchcraft. Her evidence: she was reportedly seen speaking to herself near the fields. Her sentence: death by rib hook. Imagine yourself in her place. The executioner approaches, a hook longer and sharper than any before. She is forced face down onto a wooden frame. The iron point slides between her fourth and fifth ribs, angling into the chest cavity. Carefully, it avoids piercing the lung, a skill executioners honed over years. Death too swift would ruin the punishment. Instead, the hook lodges against her spine. She is lifted, hanging face down. Her full body weight strains against a single iron point embedded in her ribcage. Every breath shifts the hook. Each inhale pulls at her ribs, separating them from the spine. The pain defies description. She remains fully conscious. Death creeps in over 2 to 6 hours. Internal bleeding, slow suffocation under her own weight, shock eventually claiming her. The Bamberg witch trials stretched from 1626 to 1631. Over 400 victims, 63% dying by rib hook, 252 women. One surviving testimony describes torture halted only when her accuser recanted. Court scribes recorded her words: "My ribs peeled away from my spine like fruit skin from the flesh beneath." Modern medical examiners studying these accounts confirmed that most victims remained conscious throughout, the hook skillfully avoiding major arteries, while blood loss was agonizingly slow. Oxygen barely reaching the brain long enough for them to endure the full terror. Then, in 1755, everything changed. Maria Theresa of Austria, among Europe's most powerful rulers, decided to witness a rib hook execution personally. Accompanied by her physician and confessor, she watched the full 6-hour ordeal. Her diary, preserved in Vienna archives, reads, "I have seen hell's machinery. God forgive us." Within 1 week, Maria Theresa banned the rib hook across all Habsburg territories, modern-day Austria, Hungary, the Czech Republic, parts of Italy, and Poland, citing unconscionable cruelty unworthy of Christian mercy. Remarkably, she left the throat hook legal until 1776. Even a queen, horrified, could not abolish all forms of hook punishment. The system was too deeply rooted in law, culture, and societal order. In Protestant German states, the rib hook persisted, used 147 more documented times between 1755 and 1847. Most victims were women accused of adultery, heresy, or infanticide. The suspension hook, however, tells an even darker tale, one involving a woman whose death ignited a war, her body still displayed today. What you are about to see was deliberately erased from history books for 2 centuries. Since 1536, 3 cages have hung from St. Albert's Church in Münster, Germany. I visited them last year. Tourists pass daily, unaware they are looking at the final resting places of 3 Anabaptist rebels, including Hilfak, one of the few women ever executed by suspension hook whose name survives. The Anabaptist rebellion had overtaken Münster. A radical sect declared the city New Jerusalem, awaiting the apocalypse. Hilfaken, devoted follower, recruited dozens to the cause. When Catholic and Protestant forces retook the city, she refused to recant. Her sentence: suspension hook. She was publicly displayed on the church tower. Unlike other hooks, the suspension hook pierced through the shoulder just above the collarbone, or through the hip bone, and victims were hoisted up the tallest towers. Left dangling for days as a warning to others, the suspension hook was engineered to pierce through the shoulder just above the collarbone or through the hip bone. Victims were hoisted along the side of a building, often the tallest church tower in the city, left dangling as a grim warning for days. Hilfeken endured 8 excruciating days. Letters from witnesses, church officials, visiting merchants and soldiers describe crowds of 10,000 gathering daily to watch her agony. By day 3, she still shouted religious prophecies. By day 5, her voice dwindled to barely a whisper. On day 8, she finally ceased moving, but she was not removed. Her body remained suspended for 6 more weeks, decomposing in full view, a stark deterrent to anyone challenging church authority. Eventually, Hilfeken's remains were placed inside one of those iron cages, the same style seen earlier, where her bones stayed on display for over 50 years. Protestant leaders across Europe leveraged her execution as propaganda, circulating pamphlets depicting her suffering and condemning Catholic cruelty. Her death became a pivotal flashpoint, intensifying the religious wars tearing through the German states. Remarkably, her execution is directly cited in historical accounts of the 30 Years' War, which claimed 8 million lives. Yet, few realize the lasting impact of this torture on modern medicine. Surgical retractors, the tools surgeons used daily to hold tissue during operations, originated directly from executioners' hook designs. In 1847, German medical textbooks literally referred to them as modified suspension instruments. The same technology that held Hilfeken aloft for 8 days now saves lives in operating rooms worldwide. The knowledge of human anatomy accumulated by executioners over centuries of systematic torture laid the foundation for modern surgical practice. Schmidt's diary, documenting 345 hook executions, continued to serve as a reference text in German universities until 1903. Now the revelation promised earlier, the final woman executed by the hook, and why her 1866 death became the most controversial in European history, even though it occurred outside Europe. The last chapter, unfolded in Philadelphia, documented in photographs that were suppressed for 90 years. Released in 1956, they reignited national debates over capital punishment. This was the last legal execution by hook in recorded history. June 8, 1866, Philadelphia County Prison. The condemned Bridget Dan, a 34-year-old Irish immigrant accused of murdering her employer's family during a robbery, faced the hook. Pennsylvania law allowed the warden to select the execution method, and he chose an antique German device imported to the prison as a historical curiosity. Over 3,000 people gathered outside. Unlike medieval public executions, this one occurred within the prison courtyard. But word spread rapidly. Reporters from 12 newspapers covered the event, marking the first execution ever photographed. Imagine yourself as Bridget, 6 years in America, working as a housemaid, facing death by a device unused in 2 decades. The executioner positions the throat hook beneath your jaw, his first time using it. Only instructions from old German manuals guide him. He pulls. Flesh tears, but he misses the proper insertion. You collapse, still conscious, screaming. A second attempt fails. The prongs catch, but one breaks off. Blood pours freely. The crowd can hear your agony. After 2 hours and a third attempt, the hook finally holds. You hang for 40 agonizing minutes before death. The Philadelphia Inquirer decried it as a mechanical failure of medieval barbarism in the modern age. The Evening Bulletin ran a front-page editorial. "We have proven ourselves more savage than our ancestors." A public outrage erupted. Women's rights groups, just gaining momentum post-Civil War, seized on Bridget's execution as emblematic of systemic cruelty toward women. Within 48 hours, Pennsylvania banned all non-hanging executions. The 1868 Treaty of Geneva cited her execution in prohibiting archaic methods of capital punishment in international law. Legal scholars in 7 countries referenced this case while drafting new execution statutes. One woman's death, botched, photographed and publicized, brought an end to 6 centuries of legal hook use worldwide. In 2003, the actual hook used on Bridget appeared at a private auction in Boston, selling for $12,000 to an anonymous buyer. Museums refused to bid. The Smithsonian deemed it too disturbing for educational purposes. Remember the museum heist I teased at the start? Here's where the story dives into the truly bizarre. Rothenburg, Germany, home to the Medieval Crime Museum. Under the cover of night, 3 executioners' hooks vanished in a meticulously planned break-in. Their historical value? Priceless. Modern security systems were bypassed flawlessly. Only the hooks were taken, every other artifact left untouched. To this day, they remain unrecovered. Police speculated a specialized occult collector was behind it. Rumors persist that these hooks have surfaced on dark web listings, going for an astonishing $50,000 each. A chilling underground market exists for instruments specifically designed to kill human beings. Franz Schmidt, the executioner who deployed hooks 345 times over 44 years, ended his diary with a stark reflection. The hook teaches nothing. It only satisfies rage. Those words belong to a man who dedicated his entire adult life to this single form of calculated suffering. And yet, the executioner's hook was not an anomaly. It was neither temporary madness nor the act of a single cruel society. It was law. It was science. It was entertainment. 6 centuries of Western civilization applied a systematic approach to human agony, and for most of that time, it was considered normal. Fast forward to modern history. In the past 20 years, 14 countries have abolished capital punishment, often citing lessons from this kind of historical brutality. Today, the executioner's hook is even referenced in human rights training modules, designated as case study number 4. Why? Because documentation matters. Thanks to Schmidt's diaries, court records, witness accounts, Maria Theresa's personal notes and newspaper coverage of Bridget Dan, we know exactly how it worked, how many people it killed, and the unbearable lengths of their suffering. This meticulous record-keeping prevents us from forgetting, from sanitizing the truth, from pretending it was anything less than what it truly was. The cages still hang on that church tower in Münster. Germany could remove them, has debated it many times, but they remain deliberately. A daily confrontation for the city, a reminder for the country to look up and to face what humans are capable of. The hooks themselves may be gone, laws have changed, but the question persists. What does it say about us that we designed this, that we sanctioned it for 600 years, that we brought our children to witness it? And now, here's the moral question I want you to wrestle with. Should museums display surviving hooks? Should we compel people to confront the raw, physical evidence of our capacity for cruelty, or would displaying them risk turning suffering into spectacle all over again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I honestly don't know the definitive answer. Next week, we dive even deeper into the shadows of history, the Iron Maiden, the infamous spike-laden torture device. But here's the twist. It may have never actually been used. Everything you thought you knew could be Victorian myth. The evidence I uncovered in German archives is about to completely rewrite the accepted history. Make sure you're subscribed. You will not want to miss this investigation.